Hello and welcome again to Between the Sheets, the show where we go inside the newspapers. And today I'm joined by Benjamin Butterworth, he's the late editor of the newspaper, and also by Lord Neesom, who's broadcaster and columnist. Since we're in the media, let's talk about the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Apart from the fact it hates Britain.
Well, it seems to. Martin Bashir was rehired by the BBC despite his deceit over the interview with Diana, Princess of Wales, after a senior executive said that he was desperate for the corporation to win awards.
And you know what? We're still paying £2,000 a week. £2,000 a week.
Do you think he should have been fired, though? I mean, so if you fire somebody, then it means that you don't get paid out your notice. He decided to leave, and therefore he's working out his notice.
I think this is agreed very much between him and the BBC to make it run as smoothly as it possibly could. That's not working, though, is it?
Should he be paid?
No, absolutely not.
He should have been fired.
So why is the BBC paying him?
He should have been fired. I'm sorry. What he did was outrageous. Look, we all know tabloids aren't perfect, but come on, this is the BBC.
But then, if they'd fired him, that would have surely put the corporation in a complex legal position.
Because they covered up.
Because then would they be accepting some kind of guilt, via sacking him?
Yeah,
how
so
does
for
the
them,
BBC,
this would be a lot cheaper.
They covered up.
How does the BBC win back people's trust on the basis that here we are?
Scrap the licence fee.
No, don't do that.
I don't see that. What's the point in scrapping the licence fee? Where are they going to get
I
the
don't want
money
to be
from
paying
instead?
for his £2,000 a week.
Well, I know nobody wants to be paying for that. Nobody wants to be
Subscribe,
paying for all the
do
ridiculous suits that are in
advertising,
there
do
as well.
something. This is ridiculous.
Yes,
It's gone
but if
too
you
far.
do advertising, first of all, that's an old model, and secondly, then they'll have even less money.
It doesn't look. There was I'm going to watch something else in any case now.
Wow.
Because there's nothing on there to watch in any case.
Okay, let's talk about this then. The BBC, is lying a problem at the heart of the BBC?
Well, it's the problem at the heart of government, so I don't see why it shouldn't be.
You know what? I remember I did a story not long ago about how they'd introduced new rules for journalists on social media, and that involved banning news and current affairs from going to pride parades. And that's something that had been said internally at meetings. And one of the top people at the BBC who leaked this to me, and I published it, he said, but beware, because when you publish this, they are the biggest load of liars that I've ever worked with in my life, and they will try and ruin you as a journalist for writing it. And lo and behold, a few hours after the story went live, the director of comms for the BBC was on the phone, furious, desperately screaming out of it. A week later, the Director General quietly admitted it had been true, while undermining me. And that was so revealing about the culture within the BBC, and the fact that someone senior in the BBC that was my source said
and you
that.
want to carry on paying for them after they tried to ruin you.
But I think that's probably
mad.
But you see, the BBC has a problem, and I'm going to go back to an issue that I had with the BBC. And I know that we're supposed to be going through the papers here. So back to 2005, the BBC put out this programme called The Apprentice. That's why I'm here. So it was
on The Apprentice, Jack. You
really
never mentioned it.
Was I? Oh, how exciting! So who knew? Anyway, first series, BAFTA winning. So who knew? So in the
Did you get a BAFTA? Did you eat
Sadly
one?
not, no.
So you haven't got the statue in your downstairs loo? Oh, that'd be nice.
You'll get the Oscar.
Yeah, I'll get an Oscar for this performance. Wow. so they put on this show.
Get on with it.
And they get to the semi-final.
Yep.
And in the edit, they change the order of firing because, I'm told, it tells a better story. To my mind, the story is the story. Whatever order the firing happened, that's Lord Sugar firing me. So on the TV, it says fourth. In reality, it was third. But of course, what you see on TV is the truth. And that's what's always written up. And guess what happens? Afterwards, you get called up in the order. So a lot of occasions, the person who come third got the call before I did. And it's really bad form.
So
What did Sorry to interrupt. What did Lord Sugar say, or Sir Alan at the time?
Well, he wasn't very happy about it, I don't think, because he said, well, it should be what it should be. But he didn't. It was the first series. Nobody knew that, you really, because we were told, no, this is how we do it in TV, that, it's much more important to tell the story in a better way, in a more engaging way for the audience.
To make it up and to lie.
Yes, so all I'm saying is that if you don't have editorial policies which are in place across, and it's not just about news and current affairs, people should be able to trust what they see. It's rather like Queengate, when they filmed the Queen in a cutaway and it made her look bad because they wanted to do it in a certain way. It's rather like when they put forward certain stories and they tar everybody with the same brush. There is no guidance within that organisation that allows people to understand what it means to be truthful. And it's why fake news gets traction from our broadcaster that we pay for.
So why are we still paying for it? Why do you want to still pay for it?
Because I want to get it right, because I think it's important to have a national
We've been getting it
broadcaster.
right for decades.
And
Having
hang
said
on.
that, we don't need to
now.
And hang on, you know, that's a fascinating insight into The Apprentice, and it's good that you're not holding on to the, you're not still begrudging it.
No, not at all.
But look,
2005? I mean, God.
I know, get over it.
tell me, I was 12, but tell me, James, isn't this the case across television, across reality TV shows? I'd bet my bottom dollar there've been more dodgy things on I'm a Celebrity or Big Brother or any of the others, more questionable things behind the scenes. You think back to the days of Big Brother, back when it filled the page of the Daily Star.
Oh, yeah.
The stuff they got away with was incredibly dodgy with hindsight, a
And
lot worse
also
than that.
incredibly damaging. Because if you give people, first of all, false senses of hope, and secondly, you lie to them through the media, and thirdly, you ruin people's lives to the extent that you're not telling the truth about them, and you're allowing them to be exploited for the telling of a story
Well, Diana,
and for the
I mean,
audience.
this is Diana.
And this is Diana, and
she's
you can
dead.
understand why Harry has tremendous problems on the basis of what he's been through. But the fact that the BBC rehired people and also continues to rehire people who, frankly, should not be there. There are one or two newsreaders that you go, oh, how did you end up to wherever it was? It's absolutely astonishing.
Well, there are some stories we could tell you about that one, but not on air.
There certainly are.
You know what? The question is, I don't think you can judge the BBC on what happened 20 odd years ago, 25 years ago. The problem is, that I think is more revealing, is the fact that they rehired Martin
As
Bashir.
a religious affairs correspondent.
Exactly. And so, you know, given that Lord Hall was, I think, then in charge of the BBC, and he knew, you know, where the bodies were buried, as it were.
Well,
and
he was
looked
there the
other
first
way.
time around.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so he should have, as the boss, he should have intervened and said, this is not happening.
They marked
Precisely.
their own homework, basically.
And
Yeah.
I think
Nothing to see here,
I
move
think
on.
he should resign his peerage if he's serious about apologising for what he did, because that's more public money he's taking.
But isn't that the point also, that we've got plenty of people in positions of power, they get knocked out of one role and then suddenly they land up with another one, and the peerage and the this and
Dominic Cummings is going to pop back up with young Benjamin here.
that. Wow.
Quite literally.
Wow. Well,
So-
there's a whole other story.
Absolutely.
We have to talk about Dominic Cummings. He has gone straight to the top of the news agenda, but it's also not just at the front pages where everybody's going, oh, shock, horror, he said some things. I don't even know why people are bothered. Outside the political bubble, everybody knows that the government's made a terrible mess of this. Everybody knows that he just wants to dump his load, if you like, on Boris because Boris fired him. Everybody knows that he is the one who really unstuck the whole of Britain from doing their bit because he's the one who lied first. So how can we trust anything that this man says?
Basically, what we're saying is a nasty, vindictive, snivelling, vengeful little git. Sums him up perfectly. Who looks like a gnome?
Wow.
But then,
I mean, now we've gone from what he does to how he looks. I mean,
That's fine.
Is that fair?
He does look like a gnome. And those, look, come on, he looks like a bushbow with something shoved up its bum. I
Wow.
mean, he doesn't look good. But basically, he's got the ump because he was sacked, his leg was humped by a dog, and the blonde bird won. And that's it. So, and he always wants to go out and get revenge on Boris, and that's all he's doing.
but you know, I mean, never did I think I'd find myself defending Dominic Cummings. of
Oh
all
my
people.
God.
But do you know what?
what have we done?
But I think
You're not coming back.
what I think he's trying to do here is to put out all the mistakes the government made.
But is he trying to salvage his reputation?
I don't think he cares about his reputation that much, because among the people that would
He's-
employ him, his reputation is in pretty high stakes.
Who would employ
Would you
him?
give this man a
Look-
job now? Would you trust him ever?
I'd give him a job.
You
yeah.
are joking
Yeah, I
me.
would.
Oh, hang on.
Oh.
You'd stick him as a columnist, wouldn't you?
And James, you
It's
said
like that other fool that they hired
Well-
from the number 10.
well, it can never be as exciting as his own blog, which and his Twitter feed, which is quite bombastic. But look, you said the whole country knows that the government messed it up. Evidently, they don't feel that way, because we saw this huge surge for the Tories in the local elections.
Yes.
Yeah, because
I
there's
think-
no opposition. What's the
But
opposition?
the
Who
other
is it
thing
going
is, though,
for?
that Dominic Cummings is talking about things where nobody knew how dangerous this thing was. Nobody knew until the scientists really gave us evidence that this was airborne and this was passing this way. I know that they shut the borders late. I know that there are a whole load of things that they did badly. However, they did put money into research which got us the vaccines, and they bought the vaccines very
But too
early.
late. And that's what he's saying.
What do you mean too late?
Well, it was in December of 2019 where countries in East Asia were putting in all of these controls, things like masks, things like hand sanitizing, things like closing the borders. And Dominic Cummings' point is that he said that in January, our government was told, this is what we should do, this is what will work. And they turned around and went, oh no, it's too politically toxic to do that. And
who
he's
was-
saying
who
it
was
costs
her-
lives.
Who was her advisor? Well, it probably did, but every government around the world has cost lives at some point in this.
But
No
our
one
Do you
country
think
costs
that
nailed
costs
it.
more lives, or do you think the fact that we didn't realise how dangerous it was and we were sending people home from hospitals?
You know, the big thing that Dominic, to be fair, is a bit right on is the whole fiasco over the care homes. The fact that the government sent people home from hospitals to care homes. That was the big mistake at the beginning. But Dominic evidently did know about this, because he wrote a blog about it. You mentioned his blog in 2019 saying, I knew how bad it was going to be, I knew how bad. Then someone actually looked into it, and that blog had been rewritten in 2020.
What a surprise.
So what a cheat. So we're talking about liars. I don't trust any of them
Okay,
at all.
does this change people's view of the Prime Minister and indeed of Keir Starmer? Because if Keir Starmer had been in charge, I'm sure he would have made a whole load of mistakes. He might have made different mistakes, but we perhaps wouldn't have had the vaccine rollout to the same extent, because he wouldn't have bought so many, because he would have gone via the European acquisition programme.
Exactly. So we'd be in the same
So
boat
we'd
as-
be in a different mess.
I mean, what we've learned from what they've said at the select committees is that that it wasn't really the government machine, it was advisors like Patrick Vallance that got the whole vaccine process going. They said that it had nothing to do with Matt Hancock or the health department.
Well, of course it would.
So I think that's quite revealing that it took people outside government to get that fixed.
To be fair, the other thing that Dominic is right on is Hancock.
You reckon he should have fired him?
I reckon he should have been hung, drawn and quartered. I mean, really, Matt Hancock, really, seriously. Every time he comes on TV, I just want to punch it.
Yeah, okay, but then the thing is that, I mean, you could have a game in that whole government as to who would you fire first, because, for example...
It'd be like The Apprentice.
Well, it would be. We'll talk about that later. But say, for example, Gavin Williamson. I do not know how he has survived this pandemic. I mean, even more than Matt Hancock, who I think has managed to salvage his reputation to an extent.
Where? How?
I think he has. I think he's delivered.
On what?
Everything.
Well, on the vaccines
Name
is
one.
what you're thinking.
Well,
The vaccine,
but now
that
we know that
wasn't
wasn't him.
Yes, but he's ultimately responsible. You can't just say, oh, well, he's not responsible for those
he's
little bits and pieces.
responsible. He couldn't.
But Gavin Williamson failed children with lack of pandemic plan.
yep.
I mean, he's failed everybody with everything.
Look, give the job to Carrie. Oh, she's doing it. Sorry. Sorry, Carrie, if you're watching.
But you know,
Wow.
Gavin Williamson was seen to be hopeless before this ever started.
That's true.
I think he survived because there was a pandemic. So while he made a terrible mess
We were all looking
of
over
all the
there.
decisions, there were
Yeah,
such bigger
yeah,
problems.
yeah.
I think without this, he would have gone.
But that's why we do this show, because, okay, so that's the big story of the day. I don't think...
I love the fact that he's going to employ him, though. I mean, Dominic Cummings is. I'm going to watch
look,
this space.
He shouldn't expect to pay his mortgage off it, but I think if a newspaper got him to write, they'd be a very
I'd
lucky
trust
newspaper.
him. I'd really
So,
trust
right, so
him.
you're putting the bid in then. So Dominic Cummings becomes an newspaper columnist. Is that it?
I don't think it's very likely, but I suspect if he wanted to reveal more secrets, any newspaper would take him up on that. And as we learned, he's been messaging journalists left, right and centre throughout the last year.
Has he been messaging you?
He hasn't been messaging me, no.
Oh.
Nor me.
Oh, nor me.
Nor me.
Oh.
So
Dominic, you can come and review the newspapers. All is forgiven. There's the bombshell. I don't think it's going to... I think this is fascinating fodder. I think the politicos, the newspapers will feed off this like a frenzy. Outside of the bubble,
No.
I don't think anybody
No,
cares.
the red wall, the blue wall, whatever colour it is these days, are going, look, can we just sort the education out, the healthcare, get us back our jobs, where the country's going bust, we just want to go forward now. I'm not bothered about the wallpaper, about who said what, when, how. And let's face it, how can you trust Dominic Cummings on anything when he set the rules, broke his own rules, and drove to test his eyesight?
But look, what's revealing is that Boris Johnson is a charlatan and a liar. The question is, did people vote for him knowing that in the first place?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
In which
Yes.
case, it won't change their mind.
No, everybody's
and
always-
I think that's dangerous.
Everybody's always known
Look,
that
everything's
about
dangerous.
Boris.
I mean, look, Tony Blair, charlatan, liar.
Yeah.
No, Tony
Gordon
Blair's
Brown,
a great Prime Minister.
charlatan, liar.
Absolutely. I don't want to be too controversial, James. Tony Blair is the greatest Prime Minister this country has had since the Second World War, without
No.
doubt.
Benjamin, where would you like to go?
Well, there was a story, I mean, it goes back to the COVID stuff we were discussing, but a fiasco yesterday, which, you know...
Love the word fiasco.
It's very posh. Fiasco.
Is it a posh
I
word?
mean a cock up.
Oh, right, yeah. Fiasco, I thought it was a tabloid word.
No, that's a tabloid word.
We
What's
love
cock
fiasco.
up then?
Unbroadcastable.
Oh. Oops.
But they had this yesterday. You've got these hotspots across the country. Bolton is the obvious one where this Indian variant is spreading. And so the government put out yesterday that local areas like Bolton, like Leicester, were going to have local lockdowns, which meant you can't go in and out of them effectively. Now that, you can imagine to the people that live there, is incredibly stressful, is really bad for business. You think about the people that haven't seen their family that finally started to make arrangements. They were told that, lo and behold, a few hours later, it was a mistake. They didn't mean it. They'd accidentally told them that.
It wasn't a lockdown, it was sort of like guidance, wasn't it?
Can we stop with the guidance?
It was like
it doesn't help
guidance.
anybody.
No, it was like go out, but don't go out, you know? And it was like work from home, but go to work if you can.
Wasn't it like
guidance?
It was like the very opening though. Do you remember right back at the beginning when they said, well, you can go to the pub, but we prefer it if you didn't.
Yeah.
And then it was wrecking. Everybody's, just everything. It was
and it's
terrible
like, you know,
guidance.
you can hug people now, but be careful how you do it. And here's a diagram telling
I'm
you
happy if you don't hug people, frankly.
Oh, James, come on. You let me hug you last week.
Yeah.
You've been in therapy ever since, but, you know.
I had to go
Going to be disinfected.
Exactly. I had to go and have a lie down. This is something else, though, which is this guidance that we continue to get. And the other thing which I find extraordinary is after a year and a bit of this, we still haven't worked out what to do with borders. Borders, if you listen to other countries around the world, when they find that there's a variant, within hours, they've switched the switch off. These are the conditions. This is how we do it. Here we give people days' notice. So everybody floods into the country. Of course, everybody flew in from India.
Absolutely.
They've all gone to Bolton and here and there and everywhere else. You look at the hotspots. They're all flying in from various places. Of course they were, because they were either coming back or they were seeing family. And they thought, right, we're not going to ride this one out. So they had 4 or 5 days to do it. They crammed the flights full. They all were in Heathrow, probably all together with everybody else.
All in the arrivals lounge. So whether it's a green country, an amber country, or a red country, you're all going through arrivals and passport control all at the same time. There's no joined up
and
thinking.
it took God knows what, like a year and a bit for Heathrow to go, oh, we'll make Terminal 5 the red list terminal, so you don't go with the others. But for all the last year, you've had people coming in from dodgier countries, questions of high COVID.
Arrange it in a way that just said, right, this is how we're going to do it.
Exactly.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out how to organise. And we all know the answers, which is, going back to the whole Dominic Cummings thing. We all know. So he's not telling us anything new. He's giving us some salacious detail. But he's not telling us anything that we know. And this is why, when it comes to doing these discussions and these issues that we've got, it's absolutely astonishing. But then it takes up the front pages. And it means that stories like, for example, here we are, finally, the National Trust chief resigns amid woke revolt. Finally, this individual has gone. So this is Tim Parker. He's quit as chairman of the Board of Trustees of the National Trust, mostly because he was focusing on what he wanted to focus on, rather than, we've got a pandemic. The National Trust looks after the most incredible assets up and down the country and has a lot of staff and a lot of people and a lot of things to look after. Perhaps you should just focus on that until we get up and running again. And yet he decided that he wanted to focus on doing a big historic hit so that he could make some political comment.
Yeah, absolutely. He was going to rewrite the history and put warning signs up and safe spaces for people visiting National Trust properties when we're allowed to do so again, that this property might have been linked to slavery. You might find that upsetting.
But in what way is that rewriting history? That is just writing history.
It is like, but it was also trying to get rid of things as
why.
well and shut things down and get rid of paintings. And it's like, no, stop. Learn from history.
It's crap. That's why. Because this stuff, this talking about it in this way is crap. It's rubbish. It's facile. It gives no insight into what the issues are. Because if you want to take away all the nasty things that have happened in history, let's start in this country with how people have been treated. Let's start with how people who are now in same-sex relationships have been treated in the past. Let's talk about people who've had their children taken away
Working class.
Well, let's talk about how posh people are treated in this country today, where you can abuse them, but you can't abuse anybody else.
You know what?
But all of this stuff it's a nonsense and a distraction away from their job.
But it's not a nonsense, because look, do I think that they should remove paintings or block off certain properties?
Get rid of statues.
Then I think that's not the answer, because the point is, though, that you should celebrate that history, or not celebrate it. You should understand it. You should celebrate the reality
and learn from it. Yeah.
And so, if he was doing understanding what these properties' histories are, putting up notices, explaining it, offering far more information, maybe having guided tours that explain a sort of black history element to these properties, I think that would be a really constructive way forward. And also, I dare say, it'd bring new people into the National Trust that hadn't thought of getting involved in it before. And I think too many people want to deny the history rather than understand it.
No, I don't think that
I don't
at all.
want to deny
no,
it,
I
but
don't
I'd
think
like
we
to
deny
get rid
it.
of people like
In any
him.
case, it leads me nicely onto my story, which is in the Daily Star.
Oh, yes.
Surprise, surprise. And this is the son of Beatles Lennon, John Lennon and Yoko Ono. He's actually saying the woke culture has gone too far. He's blasting it for oversensitising people to characteristics like skin colour. He goes, look, it's never been perfect when I was growing up in New York, and bearing in mind his mum's Japanese, but people did not self-segregate along tribal lines. And all this woke culture and rewriting history so it's the black culture to the forefront and warning and triggers and all that, it's making people more divided.
But
And people in this country, a recent poll did say that everybody...
Do you think that Black Lives Matter has moved race relations forward or back?
Backwards. Backwards.
You see, I think it's backwards.
Backwards.
But I think it's only backwards. You could only say that because people are so much more aware of some of the problems. You know, a lot of black people in this country felt like they couldn't talk about the problems they'd faced, the subtle challenges they'd faced, the overt challenges they'd faced, and they've had the confidence to discuss it. And I think,
but do you
may I
think,
just
though,
challenge you?
yes.
I think the fact is that some white people have felt uncomfortable being challenged.
But you see, I think people feel uncomfortable because sometimes if you're not good enough, I don't care what colour your skin colour is, you're not good enough, you're not clever enough, you haven't worked hard enough, you're not bright enough, you're not
I am
sharp
here,
enough.
James.
Yeah, but all of these things that you sometimes have to say to people in a work position.
Yeah.
And we've now ended up in a position where you can't say that to some people if you come from a certain background. And it really is.
But you
so
know
say,
what?
for example, when we talk about the likes of Diane Abbott and what she says, where she says, so she was accused of inflaming racial tensions yesterday after claiming a Black Lives Matter activist was shot for her beliefs, despite the police saying that she wasn't targeted. So, look, I mean, I understand the narrative that says that you have to undermine the police because the police are institutionally racist, and they still are, and they always were, and they always will be. But if you do that kind of thing, then it means that you cannot have a proper discussion. I don't want to see somebody stop from doing what they want to do because of the colour of their skin or their sexual orientation or their age or all these things. But I do want to see the right people go into the right jobs because they've got the right skills.
Well, Diane Abbott's in the wrong job then, isn't she? I mean, that was just so divisive, that tweet she put out. But and going back to what you're saying, you know, do we think now we are more divided because of the whole Black Lives Matter issue? In America, that has proven to be the point. In Minneapolis, where our George Floyd was killed, you know, gun deaths and murders and street crime have gone up 108%. In the year since then, because the police are terrified to go in there and tackle the gang crime in that city.
But I mean,
and you know, people who are living there now going, we need help. And Black Lives Matter, defund the police. People are dying because of that movement.
I mean, people were dying because people were, you know, police in America, thank God not here, were going around shooting black people far too easily because they're undertrained and racist.
But now it's got worse. So it's not helped. It hasn't moved on.
But I dare say the black communities that are struggling so much is because they haven't had the opportunities in the first place, and people have turned to crime and made all sorts of mistakes, and that's how they end up in this situation. So I think it comes full circle in that sense.
It does come full circle to an extent. But then how do we move forward? Because if you've got a large proportion, if you have a look at any kind of survey, there are some people who will say, yes, it's really good that we're talking about it, but there are a lot of people who say, I think that, or we think that race relations in this country have got worse. So how do you then heal the mess, if you like, that we've now got, combined with the fact that Black Lives Matter means that you ignore everybody else, because there are lots of problems within different sections of the community. And then Black Lives Matter has also been hijacked by pretty much a Marxist sort of diktat, which talks about vast redistribution of wealth in a way that even Jeremy Corbyn couldn't get away with.
I mean, look, you make a good point that there is this distinction between Black Lives Matter, the slogan and the concept that a great many people buy into, and the specific organisation which has a group of self-appointed people that are Marxists, that are completely crazy.
They are inseparable in most people's minds now. They are inseparable.
No, but they're not, because if I said to my grandmother, do you think Black Lives Matter? She'd say, yes, I would, but she, you know, has voted Tory for 60 years. You know, she would agree with the principle, but she obviously wouldn't sign up to the organisation. And I think that's what you have to distinguish. You know, most people think stuff should get better for black people. And when they hear those black voices on television, they're saddened by it, they're worried by it. They think, oh, can I do anything to help?
Yeah, no, I think that's a normal response. Of course we all do, but it's not helping. It
See, I
doesn't seem
think
to be
it's
helping.
sadly,
It's
I
turning
think
the
it's
clock back.
I think it's not helping.
Well, I tell you what, I think Diane Abbott's tweet was completely unhelpful because, that is a situation where the police said this wasn't about the woman's race relations.
But will she apologise for nothing, that woman?
Well, she was quizzed on it on another station the other
she
day, and
was,
she refused. So evidently not. And I think that's a shame because, do you know what? I'm not of Diane Abbott's politics. Most people are.
Most people are.
No,
but do you know what?
is.
I do respect when she's stood up for her community in Hackney and for some of the voices there. She has a part to play. This isn't that part. This is doing more damage than good.
No, absolutely. And at the end of the day, Sasha Johnson, a 27-year-old young woman, 2 little kids, and she's fighting for her life in hospital. And
Exactly.
we're not talking about her as a woman or her family or those that love her. We're talking about Diane Abbott tweeting a very inflammatory thing that is not even accurate.
We are. I'm so sorry. It's got to that
So
time.
let's hope that Sasha gets better, bless her.
Bless. Now, more important is I've got to put my gloves on because we're going into The Guardian.
You tore up my paper last week.
Well, it's not surprising. I'll do it again in a minute.
It's got me on the floor.
I mean, first of
Lovely.
all, Starmer promises Equality Act in bid to tackle structural racism in the UK. Great, there's no help to anybody. Then they go on about, I don't know, the BBC and blah, blah, blah.
Like we've just talked about the BBC, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quite. Will Raphael Bear ever get over the fact that we left the European Union?
No. Next question.
Right, just, that's the bit I'm terrible. Just bore off Raphael Bear. You're just boring. Meanwhile, how does this individual get a contract? So I have no idea who Megan Nolan is. She's in the G2, and setting aside a year away from my family has rekindled my morbid fear. I don't even care what she's going on about. But then she says, there was one thing I really wanted during the lockdowns, aside from the cessation of the pandemic. I quickly stopped. So I quickly stopped, isn't that? Yeah. How can somebody get paid for writing such grammatically poor?
It's not the FT, is it, James?
It's certainly not
Or the
FT.
Daily Star.
Or the Daily
Or
Star.
the Independent.
I quickly stopped entertaining the idea of anything so unimaginably distant and decadent as sex, but my hunger for touch did lead me to become consumed by the thought of getting a tattoo. Oh my God! What is this crap?
What?
She wanted to get a tattoo. She spent the whole of lockdown thinking about getting a tattoo, and there's a column about it here.
Instead of sex?
Yes.
Well, I mean...
I've got a tattoo. Really, it's nothing
Have
like
you?
sex. Yeah, I've got quite a few, but it's nothing like sex.
Cool.
Well, not like I can remember the tattoo. I can't
Anyway, she
remember the
deserves
sex.
to be ripped up. Megan Nolan. I'm sorry, this is Megan Nolan. Seriously, I'd fire you. It's rubbish.
Get a tattoo, lads. They're great fun, and they last a lot longer than sex.
all the
Sorry,
men.
sorry. Do you want my end finally?
No, I don't want your and finally. I want to talk about the royal family talking of sex.
Oh, okay. Which one of them makes you think about sex, James?
They don't make me think about sex.
Not these
It's
days.
their new outfits. They're so sexy.
Oh, right. Okay.
Kate.
There's a lot of stuff in the press about the royals, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Go on.
Well, I want to hear from Benjamin.
Well, it's the PR wars.
Fashion expert.
It's the PR, indeed, exactly. So you've got Prince Charles. Now, speaking of sex, you've got Prince Charles. I mean, well, he's got this jacket, and the Daily Mail has given 2 full pages to this, where he's been wearing the same jacket for 20 years, and he's kept patching it up. Now, you know, woe be me to tell another newspaper how to lay it out. And actually, I dare say a lot of people are interested in it that buy the Daily Mail. But it's got a big space because he's been redoing his outfits. And we saw some very similar stories only recently about Kate Middleton re-wearing outfits. There's been quite a few of those easy wins. And I think what we're seeing here, it's not about his sort of dodgy old jacket. It's the PR wars.
They're doing this, aren't they? The thrift. I mean, how wonderful he is because, you know, that coat, it looks like Steptoe and Son. You know, he's been wearing it for like 20 years, and isn't that marvellous and wonderful?
So
and
are we trying to
how
get
lovely-
away from the stories of Prince Andrew, who's still called Prince Andrew, despite the fact that maybe he shouldn't, driving away in his new Bentley, and the fact that they all have deals, by the way, with
Did you get a
certain
new
car
Bentley?
companies. Yes.
Yeah.
So they all get supplied cars by certain
Handy to get into
manufacturers
Pizza
because
Express.
they all get them, and and they all get given these cars, and that's all supplied, and they do travel on the private jets to get from here and there and da da da. So all of that is put out of the minds of us, the people, because Harry has been revealing some of their secrets, and we've been hearing about the lurid tales of how he got from one place to another, and all of this stuff. So they're trying to say, oh, but we're very good value for money, and you know, we're just like you. and trying to get us to buy back into the royal institution, which has been so damaged. But I think Harry is going to continue to spill the beans. He's now started. He's now telling us how great therapy is. It's not going to stop.
Well, the problem is he's doing his therapy in public by the looks of it.
And it's not working, is it? Because he seems to be getting worse, bless him.
He doesn't seem like a happy man. And do you know what? I totally respect his decision to turn away from the royals to go and make his own life. But it looks like he is
by chucking his
just
family under the
exactly,
bus.
and I don't think anyone looks on that favourably. And I'm finding it so uncomfortable to watch, because here is a broken guy that's got so many issues that needs to work through them quite evidently. But why is he doing it in the glare of the world and to harm his
because
family?
he's getting a few bob for
And because
it.
he's being encouraged to do it. He's being
think?
told it's the right thing to do.
Who
I
would
wonder
be
who.
doing that?
No. Should we go for an and finally?
And finally, I'm going to talk about pigs.
Do you?
It's a super psychic
Oh God! It's not another
pig
story from the Daily
called
Star, is it?
Susie. She's lovely. We've got football coming up.
Have we?
Yay! June the 10th,
You're sat
England's
between two gays here.
gay people play football. They just don't talk about it
Yeah,
that much in the
not
Premiership.
these
Anyway,
ones.
England's Euro 2020 glory bid could be ambushed. Ambushed, get it? By a psychic pig. Any case, we kick off on June the 10th. England's opening against Croatia, and Susie, the psychic porker, is going to predict each game, and it's not looking good for us so far because her favourite food is croissants, which makes you think France might win.
And so what makes Susie psychic? Do we know?
That's an awkward question. God's sake.
See, I'm
But you
really
do
pleased to have a journalist on here who can ask the really important
The
questions.
tough
of you.
questions.
Like
But
you two.
well, I tell you what. I mean, Susie knows as much about football as I know, so she's better qualified to pick a winner.
She's got
than I am.
football.
So, what is the football thing? What is it? The
Well, it's
contest?
the Euro.
It's the
isn't it?
Euro 2020.
No, we had that last Saturday. It was Eurovision.
Yeah, and we got 0 point then as well, didn't we? So
Yeah, it's not going well.
No. Okay.
Would you like to go anywhere with an and finally?
Well, we have. I don't know whether you saw the row about Nick Knowles off DIY SOS.
Is that a programme that you like to watch?
I have watched it. It's very emotional. It really gets me, you know, when they give them the beautiful home at the end. And of course,
We've
everyone.
all got very good toolkits on there.
They do.
You do wonder how long it is before everything just falls off and dies. And the way changing rooms, I mean, 2 weeks later, it just looks like an absolute shambles.
We've all seen that clip of when they put the
The
teapots.
Apprentice. Look what happens to the Apprentice. Sorry.
They put all the teapots on the shelves on changing rooms and it all collapsed. Have you seen that on YouTube?
Funny enough, I sort of try and have a life occasionally and don't watch too much. Of
Well, I
this
tell you
stuff.
what, Nick Knowles, which was going to be sacked from the BBC, not Martin Bashir, he gets to leave, but Nick Knowles was about to be sacked because he filmed a Shreddies advert.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
In which he dressed up as a
Cereal.
builder and poured it and was sort of helping it in much the same way as he acts on his BBC programme. And the BBC, according to several front pages of The Sun, were furious about this because he was sort of profiting from his BBC
It's not
work.
like Gary Lineker and the Crisps adverts, then, is it?
Well, what's interesting is that he's obviously freelance, and that was the distinction. You can do what you want because you're a freelance BBC employee. Well, presumably Nick Knowles is. You know, it can't be
He
a
is.
full-time job.
He is.
And so, but the BBC were going to sack him, and The Sun says that they've saved Nick
Yay.
Knowles his job.
Woo.
So he gets to sell Shreddies and to be DOI SOS's man.
Yeah, the point is that the Sun didn't actually do anything to help him save his job, but if that's what they want to think,
Come
then that's
on.
fine.
Well, there's
It's
a public
somewhat won
outcry.
it.
A public
Yeah,
outcry.
I was outcried.
I mean,
Meanwhile,
I didn't want Nick Knowles to lose his job, I have to say,
Why?
because that show's great.
oh, it's done its time. It's like move on. Right.
Unlike
Meanwhile,
The
there are
Apprentice,
two
obviously.
food stories.
Yeah,
I'd
that's
like to
what
leave
that one's
on.
over.
Two food stories that you might have missed. First of all, an old couple, Margaret and
you
husband
do
Donald.
like a pussy story. Every week we
expect that.
get one.
Everybody loves cats. The musical. Now, Margaret Lincoln, who's 80, and husband Donald, who's 95, who live in France, they couldn't understand the label, and they ended up eating cat food because they thought it was pate. So this poor reporter from The Sun has ended up, Josh Saunders, tried 8 tins of kitty cuisine.
Oh my
because
God.
all cat food, all pet food has to be
It's edible.
edible by
Yeah,
humans.
yeah.
Why?
Even- just in case somebody eats it.
By
So like
accident.
children. You know, they might eat it by mistake. So it has to be edible by humans, even though it isn't. But anyway, so he's tried them all, and apparently they're all absolutely disgusting.
No, who'd have
Meanwhile,
I mean, I'm amazed that cat food has to be fit for human consumption.
It does say
that
so.
says something about
Just in
this
case you
country.
accidentally eat
No,
it.
it's all-
Come on, Benjamin, we've all got back after a night out, gone to the cupboard. You know, you haven't even got a cat, I know,
Apparently-
but gone to the cupboard.
apparently Lily's Kitchen Organic, which is 75p a thing. Look, 5, taste 4. Delicious.
Out of what?
4 out of 5.
Out of 5.
That's not too
Lily's
bad.
organic, yeah. Meanwhile,
I've had worse pate than that.
mind you, Purina Gourmet Ocean Fish, look 6, or maybe it's out of 10.
Oh.
Look 6, taste 7.
Wow. Well, it would be out of 10 then, wouldn't it? Would be out of
Koshida
5.
beef, look 2, taste 1.
Oh.
Well, I know what I'm having for dinner.
Meanwhile,
I mean, I tell you what, I know plenty of people that feed their cats human food. So
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, I know,
maybe it shouldn't be the other way
absolutely.
around.
Smoked salmon.
maybe it shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I don't have a cat. I don't like cats, but
Now, you were alive in the 1970s, and dare I say, so was I.
just.
Just. So the dinner party is back, apparently. We're all going back to the 1970s. So, according to this, prawn cocktails, cheese fondues, and baked Alaskas are all in. Benjamin, if you went to a dinner party, what would
I
you
do
like to
sometimes.
see
Do you?
people serve?
Now it's allowed.
People invite you to dinner parties.
People invite me, yeah. Well, you know, I'm the token lefty. In most things. Look, I don't want the prawn cocktail. I think that's absolutely disgusting. I have to say, no one I've been to a dinner party with, and it's only been recent, of course, because it's only just become legal.
Yes.
But and also when I think back to before, I've not seen anyone serving this or suggesting this.
I had a cheese fondue a couple of weeks ago. It was amazing.
Tell me, what is
Did
it?
you?
Outside we did it.
A cheese fondue.
Oh my God, cheese fondues are incredible.
You do know what a cheese fondue is.
I don't think
you?
so.
I'm going.
Oh my
What?
He doesn't
I mean, I'm
know.
guessing it's cheese. Would a
Right.
cat eat it?
God. I actually think we're going to have to leave it there.
What's in
I-
it?
Well,
Cheese.
But just cheese.
On
What,
that
like chocolate?
bombshell, I think we're done. Benjamin Butterworth,
make it
who doesn't
stop.
know what a cheese fondue is. Can you just go and Google it?
I tell you what, tonight I'm going to buy a cheese fondue and some cat food, and that's dinner.
Oh my God, I can't, that's actually made me feel quite
I'm going to
ill.
buy a beige outfit and wear it next week.
And I'm hoping that we're going to get invited back on that bombshell. Thank you very much indeed to Benjamin Butterworth, late editor of The Eye, and also to Dawn Neesom, broadcaster and columnist. Thank you both very much indeed. Don't forget you can join me, James Max, on your early breakfast show every weekday morning from 5 on Talk Radio.